Today's podcast is all about food. More specifically, it's about eating in Ireland if you or someone you're traveling with happens to have food sensitivities or allergies. Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining me again on the Traveling in Ireland podcast. For those of you who are new to the podcast, my name is Jody Halstead, and I am the publisher, author, and traveler behind Ireland Family Vacations. I also do vacation planning and have written a book called Planning the Ireland Vacation of Your Dreams, which is a step-by-step from beginning to end guide of planning your perfect Ireland vacation. It is available for immediate download at store.irelandfamilyvacations.com. And you can find a link to that and everything else I talk about today in the podcast in the show notes. So please do check those out. So today we are talking about eating in Ireland. And eating in Ireland is something that I actually receive a lot of questions about, mainly because people are either worried about picky eaters or, even more importantly, food sensitivities and allergies. And I want to, begin by saying it's very easy to eat in Ireland. Now, that said, you will find some places that might be a little more difficult, but for the most part, Ireland is an amazing place to eat if you have any type of food sensitivity or allergy. Actually, if you go back to episode 11, which has been, almost 2 years ago now, episode 11 was all about eating gluten-free in Ireland. My best friend went with me to Ireland. She is highly gluten sensitive, and she didn't want to leave because it was so easy for her to eat there, much easier for her than actually at home. So I want to go ahead and tackle the subject of eating in Ireland when you have food allergies and sensitivities. Now, Ireland has been listing allergen information on their prepackaged foods since 2005, so they've been very aware of food allergies and sensitivities and have been making great strides to make it easy to eat there. And in 2014, allergen information was added to restaurant menus. So the menus are usually really easy to read. I do have a couple of menus, if you do go to the show notes, to show you kind of an example of what you can expect. But they're very easy to read. Most of them will have a key of some sort that tells you what each notation means, and then it will tell you what to expect from the meals. So you can find menus that will list everything from gluten to mollusks, eggs, fish, peanuts, soybeans, nuts, milk, lupin, crustaceans, mustard, sesame seeds, celery, and sulfur dioxide. So it's a really extensive list of allergens that are listed on menus. And you'll find that they're really easy to read. So if something happens to have, let's say, gluten and sesame seeds and milk in it, it will note that to the side. So the menus are very, very easy to decipher, and it makes it very easy to read and to understand what you are ordering. Now, some menus, if you go into smaller places, so the menus of larger establishments are going to be more set. They're going to be very constant and consistent, and it's going to be very easy for these establishments to have a set menu that can be notated. But you will get into some places in Ireland where the restaurants are much smaller, or they use different ingredients on different day depending on what's in season. So these menus oftentimes will note gluten, vegetarian, and vegan, but they won't list every other allergen that might be there. They will, however, often have an allergen guide that you can request from the server. So if you're looking at a menu and it's not listing allergens, go ahead and inquire with your server if there is an allergen guide. And oftentimes you will find that that will be very helpful. Now, in Ireland, food is fresh and local. Um, Ireland is an island, and so they've been practicing farm to table basically as a way of life. It's not just a catchphrase there. A lot of times when you are eating in Ireland, you can almost guarantee that the majority of the food that reaches your table has come from no further than about 20 kilometers. So it's really easy for your wait staff, your chefs, basically anybody in the establishment to tell you where the food is from, how it was raised, how it's being prepared, and really answer any questions you have. A lot of times, I've had instances where I've asked about something, maybe a goat's cheese, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, it just came from down the road, and the owner's right there if you want to talk to them." So oftentimes you're going to find the food is very fresh and very local and very easy to eat. You're not going to find a lot of processed food, especially when you get into the smaller rural establishments in Ireland. There's not a lot of processed food. Very clean, very fresh. Another thing that is really, really helpful to know is that when you are eating in Ireland, things are usually prepared on the spot. You will find a few places where if they're having a special dish, it's been pre-prepared and then they will prep it for you. But in most cases, what you are eating is made fresh when you order it. And that's really, really helpful if you have any sensitivities or allergies because it can be altered very, very easily for you to keep, to keep problems away. So always remember to ask about that when you are, placing your order. People are more than happy to help you and to make sure that you have a great meal. So, a few tips for eating in Ireland if you have food allergies. Like I said at the beginning, most menus will have some sort of allergen notation. So, do check that menu. There's usually going to be a key of some sort on it to tell you what each symbol will mean. Number two, if you don't see allergen information listed, ask your server if there's an allergen guide that is available. Oftentimes they'll have to run and get it from the menu stand, but if one is available, they will happily bring it to you. Number three, remember that smaller restaurants and pubs do change their menu daily based on what's fresh and local. So because most meals are made to order, they can be altered to suit your dietary needs if you just ask. Again, people are going to be more than happy to make any changes that you need. Number four, I kind of just said it. Ireland is a very friendly place and people are always happy to help. So when in doubt about a meal or ingredient, just ask. It's all you have to do. Just ask. They want you to have a great meal. So we are now down to the tips. And I know this is a really short episode. You guys are probably really used to listening to me wax poetic about Ireland because you know I can do that, especially when I have a wonderful guest. But this topic is really an important one. Oh, but before I get to those three places, I do want to touch on picky eaters. I receive so many questions about, are my kids going to find something to eat in Ireland? And I just want to say, yes, they will. You're going to find things kids love. In fact, you'll probably find a French fry or a chip on every menu, even even breakfast. You may even find it on a breakfast menu. So as cliche as it is, you will find a potato in every meal. Now, beyond the potato, you will find chicken goujons, which are chicken strips. You will find plenty of hamburgers and sausages and all the, pastas even. You're going to find plenty that kids will eat. But I do want to say, let them try things, even if you think they're not going to appreciate it. Just make sure they try it. You might be surprised. My girls have come away from trips really loving things that they kind of turn their nose up at first. So just make sure the kids are trying new things. In my heart, you can't go wrong with a great black pudding, but I might be the alternate to that. I do love a good black pudding, but you're going to find sausages and bacons and, like I said, potatoes, chicken, beef. Who knows, your kids might even like lamb. So don't worry about picky eaters. They will not go hungry in Ireland, I promise. Now, now we'll get to those 3 tips. But first, I want to remind you that driving is the very best way to see Ireland. You're going to be able to get off of those tourist trails, follow those little tiny roads into the towns, and it's in those little towns and those off the beaten path areas that you're going to find and make some great memories. So, when you do decide to rent your car for an Ireland vacation, I do recommend Irish car rentals. They will provide an unbeatable quote for your vacation. So when you're ready to rent, go to irishcarrentals.com, use code IFV for Ireland Family Vacations in the promotions box. Now, 3 fabulous places you should eat in Ireland. I have to start with Murphy's Ice Cream. I am guilty of eating Murphy's ice cream every chance I get. My girls wax poetic about how great their ice cream is, and in all honesty, we keep an eye on their website for new flavors. I saw that they just released fennel for the summer, and I kind of want to just fly over there just for ice cream, which sounds funny. But Murphy's Ice Cream is a local chain. Their tagline is ice cream that knows where it's coming from, and everything in their ice creams is so, so local. The sea salt is harvested by hand from the ocean. The milk comes from the very, very rare Kerry cow, and it's so thick and creamy and beautiful. So Murphy's ice cream can be found in Dingle, which is where it began. You'll also find it in Dublin, Kilkenny, Killarney, and Galway. My personal favorite is the caramelized brown bread, and I have a deep love for the caramel honeycomb with pieces of honeycomb that are so beautifully crunchy and delicious. But they allow you to sample, so I recommend trying a few flavors and finding your favorite before you get a couple scoops in a dish. So Murphy's Ice Cream. They also make sorbets, so if you do have a dairy allergy, there is an option for you, and their sorbets are absolutely wonderful. They're so good, so nice and cold and fruity. They're really delicious. So you can't go wrong at Murphy's Ice Cream. Number 2 are the Avoca shops. So Avoca started as a woolen mill in Avoca Village in County Wicklow, but they have shops that are kind of scattered all over the country now, and each of their shops, except maybe one, has some sort of food offering in it. I've never had a bad meal at Avoca. They have different experiences, so in some places you might just find a cafe. In some places you might find just a place to grab sandwiches for a picnic. In some places you're going to find a beautiful sit-down experience. So every place is a little bit different, but the thing that doesn't change is that all the food is very local, very fresh, and just made right then. And it's absolutely gorgeous. So the food markets in Avoca, they also have these. They're great for grabbing sandwiches and chips and wonderful little bits that you might want to make a meal out of later. They also have artisan foods like scones and jams and teas and coffees and locally sourced items, and it's just great. So you can spend loads of time in Avoca. I always do, between the shop and the food. You will find Avoca in the counties of Dublin, which has 4 locations. Wicklow has 4 locations, including the original Avoca Village. Galway has 1 location. Kerry has 1 location. County of Meath has a location, and Antrim has a location that is in Belfast. So do look for the Avoca shops. They are really, really a wonderful stop and a great place, especially if you have a little bit of a drive. If you can find an Avoca and grab some food for later and make a nice picnic somewhere, it's really a great experience. The final place I'm going to recommend is the Burren Food Trail. And if you've been listening to the podcast for, I don't know, the last month and a half, I've talked about the Burren and County Clare a lot. It's a wonderful place. It's one of my favorite places. I have some wonderful, wonderful friends there. And not surprisingly, many of them serve some great food. So the the Burren is an area that produces just, if you can imagine it, the Burren grows it. It's an amazingly fertile area for as rocky as it is. But the Burren Food Trail, which kind of winds through that whole Burren area, has more than 2 dozen producers and restaurants and pubs and cafes all involved with it. And you're going to find food events that take place from May to October during the growing and harvesting season, as well as really, really great food producers that you can visit. So you can visit the Burren Smoke Shop, you can visit the Free Range Pork, you can visit St. Tula Goat Cheese. All these places that produce food are available for visit. Do check their websites though, because some of them do have visiting hours or will require um, arrangements be pre-made. But then there are also just all these beautiful, beautiful places to eat. Now, my favorite is Kilshanny House. There is a link in the show notes to an article I wrote about Kilshanny House. Mary and Aiden are just wonderful, wonderful people. And if you can get Aiden's bread recipe, I'm going to be really impressed, because he wouldn't even give it to me. Even though I could guess ingredients, he wouldn't tell me his secret. But he has some of the most gorgeous bread you're ever going to eat. And Mary makes everything from scratch when you order it. It's a 2-person operation, and they are just the friendliest, friendliest people. But beyond that, you're going to find some other great places. I do have an article that is linked in the show notes, as I said, about Kilshanny House, as well as the other places that there are to eat in the Burren. Gus O'Connor's Pub in the village of Doolin is my favorite place in the entire country to get fish and chips. I love, love, love their fish and chips. The Sanctuary Cafe at the Burren Nature Center has an amazing bakery, and if you're traveling with kids, they have this lovely little cafe. It overlooks the outdoor playground. I send my kids outside, and I sit inside and have a scone and tea and do a little work. Um, Another ice cream place, Lanella Ice Cream. It's the most westerly ice cream parlor in Ireland, and is absolutely a beautiful, beautiful place. The Burren Smokehouse, again, some beautiful salmons and fishes. Wild Kitchen. Una leads wild food walks through the Burren. So, you're going to go out, you're going to forage, and then you're going to eat with Una, which is a great experience. And um, even the Cliffs of Moher, their cafe on their upper level now, which overlooks the cliff view, is all local food. So even the Cliffs of Moher, you're going to find some great, great Burren food. So those are my 3 places that you should definitely try to find and eat in Ireland. And if you have any recommendations of great meals you've had in Ireland, or any questions on eating in Ireland, or any other travel questions pertaining to Ireland, you can visit the show notes and leave a comment there, or you can email me directly, Jody at IrelandFamilyVacations.com. I always answer, so do reach out to me. I'm always happy to help. So thanks so much for listening. This was a shorter episode than normal. I hope that it was helpful. And if you have enjoyed this podcast or any of the others, please do leave me a 5-star review at iTunes or your favorite podcast host. Thanks so much for listening. Slán go fóill.